Hello and welcome to the Parshas Vayigash Parsha Shir. This week we're going to be talking about becoming a Moshel B'rucho, becoming a person who rules over their inner world. And unfortunately, I am not currently in Australia giving this year live. I am pre-recording this in Los Angeles, visiting my parents at home. So we're not going to have the live effect over here, but doing the best I can. And I did attach a source sheet if anybody wants to go through the sources inside with me and really get it clear, really get it inside. Straight from the source. We'll begin with source number 1, which is the Psukim in Bereshis Perek Mem Hey. And the Psukim say Yosef about to reveal himself after 22 years being away from his father. The brothers see him. He's undercover. Yosef reveals himself. He says the famous words, Ani Yosef, I am Yosef. The shock that the brothers felt was unbelievable. And Yosef doesn't just continue there. He goes straight into consoling the brothers. Right away, he's focused on what the brothers are thinking, their feelings, their difficult feelings, and he wants to console them, help them that they don't feel so bad. And he says, "Ve'ata lo atam shalachtem osi heina." It was not you who sent me here, ki ha'elokim, because Hashem sent me here. Vayisimenu la'av leparo. He made me as an av to Paro, ula'adon l'chobeso, and to a master of his entire house, umoshel b'kol eretz Mitzrayim. And he made me as a ruler of all of Eretz Mitzrayim. But then he continues. So let's take those words for a second. The pasuk says that that Paro made me a ruler over all of Eretz Mitzrayim. First of all, what does that mean? Yosef wasn't the ruler of all of Eretz Mitzrayim. Paro was still the one in charge. He was the one in the most power. Yosef was only second in command. He was only the viceroy. So why is the pasuk calling him a Moshel B'rucho Eretz Mitzrayim? Let's continue on. Next pasuk, Maru ve'alu ve'alavi. Yosef continues on and he says, "Run to go up to my father, v'amartem elav ko amar bincha Yosef, and tell him this is what your son Yosef has said. Samani Elokim le'adon l'chol Mitzrayim, that Hashem has put me as a master of all of Eretz Mitzrayim." And then we find already twice. First, Yosef tells the brothers that Hashem has made me a master of all of Eretz Mitzrayim. Then Yosef sends the brothers to go tell Yaakov that Hashem has made him an Adon l'chol Mitzrayim. And then in the third pasuk, Vayagidu lo lemor, this is pasuk Chavav, Vayagidu lo lemor, Od Yosef Chai. The brothers actually go, and we know that it's Serach bas Asher. They tell Yaakov Avinu, Od Yosef Chai, Yosef is still alive, V'chi hu Moshel B'rucho Eretz Mitzrayim. And not just that he's alive, he's also the ruler of all of Eretz Mitzrayim. It seems like a crucial point that the brothers need to tell Yaakov right away in one sentence. Oz Yosef Chai, v'chiyu Moshel b'chol Eretz Mitzrayim, v'yafeg libo. Yaakov's heart jumps out. Ki lohem in lahem, he could not believe that his son Yosef was still alive. So we find this concept already 3 times that Yosef is a Moshel b'chol Eretz Mitzrayim. What is this concept that we're trying to get to? Why is he considered the Moshel B'rucho Eretz Mitzrayim? What do you mean Paro is really the Moshel B'rucho Eretz Mitzrayim? And the Sifsei Chaim really asked 2 different questions here. Question number 1, which is in source number 2. Question number 1 is V'tzarch lahavim ma besura hizu Yaakov asher Yosef mevakesh of Asro shehu adon l'chol Mitzrayim. What kind of news is this to Yaakov that Yosef is asking to let Yaakov know that he's an adon l'chol Mitzrayim v'af heim kishaboa Yaakov aviem v'yagidu lo lemor od Yosef chai v'chiyu Moshe b'chol Eretz Mitzrayim ha'im zeh ma shechashav liYaakov leida achar chaf beis shana. Is this what's important for Yaakov to know after 22 years of not seeing his son, that Yosef is the master of all of Eretz Mitzrayim, sheperish mimenu Yosef shemolechu al goyim hamitzrayim, that he's a ruler over the non-Jews. Ma bekach Yaakov bevadai haya meunyan ladas eich nira beno achar chaf beis shana sheyatza mibeis midrasha laachar shemasa lo es kol tarasa. What Yaakov really wanted to know was, how is my son Yosef doing after 22 years? How's he doing spiritually? He left the Beis Medrash for so long. I gave him all. Yaakov gave Yosef all of his Torah and his Galgal ben Mitzrayim, and now he was amongst the non-Jews and secular society, and everything that they represented, which was the antithesis to Torah values. Ha'im nishar bein yeshiva, is he still remaining in the yeshiva? Gam b'matzav zeh, aval ma mosifa lo hayediyah shehu Moshe b'chol eretz Mitzrayim. But what is this that they're telling him that he's a Moshel b'chol eretz Mitzrayim? What Yaakov cares about is Yosef's spirituality. Why would he care the fact that he's considered some ruler and in a high level of power? Question number 2 is that we find that Paro gave Yosef 6 different levels of greatness. You'll see the Sifsei Chaim in source number 3. He says, "Ma'dua be'emes ichnia Paro es atzmai kokach benesinas hagedula liyosef b'chol perateha." Why do we actually find? It's so interesting that we find that Paro gives all this greatness to Yosef. Atatia al Beisi. We find that when Paro is conferring power over to Yosef, he says, Atatia al Beisi, you should be over my home. Memuna al Beis Melech, you should be appointed over the whole house of the king. So we find already that Paro is giving him his house. But then he continues, Val Pishcha Yisha Kol Ami, through your mouth. Kol inyane ha'asakim v'ha'parnasa shebemedina yiyu teluyim bo. Any financial call that in the country will be taloi in you, will be dependent on you. So you're going to be the chief financial advisor. You're going to be like the federal policymaker of Mitzrayim. You make all the rate hikes, right? Think Jerome Powell. All the rate hikes, everything is going to be in your charge, anything financial in the entire country. But then Paro gives Yosef even more. He says, Od Hosef limnosa re'ei nasati oscha al kol eretz Mitzrayim. The pasuk also says, Re'ei nasati oscha al kol eretz Mitzrayim memshala v'shulton al kol Hamedina. You also have rulership and absolute power over the entire country. And then the pasuk continues, Vayasar Paro es tabata me al yada vayitin osa al Yosef. Paro gives Yosef the ring, the signet that allows him to make the policies. Ak v'rach Yosef yachtom al kol inyane eretz Mitzrayim. Yosef is the only one. He gets the sole rights, the monopoly over all of the things that were happening in Mitzrayim. Vayubash oso bigdei sheish vayasim revid hazav al tzavaro. Not only that, but Paro gives him bigdei melucha. He gives him the name of a ruler. Ubiladecha lo yarim ish es yado ves ragle b'chol eretz Mitzrayim, and without you, nobody can raise a hand. Meaning everything is going to go over to Yosef. Rakakise egado mimcha. Everything was given over to Yosef, and the Mefarshim say from here that there was really no difference between Yosef and Paro. Yosef was much more actively involved in everything, but Paro just basically kept the kisei, the throne, meaning just on the external level, he gave over all of the responsibilities over to Yosef, and Rashi explains that all they wanted to do was call him, just call me, as long as you call me Melech, as long as you call me the king. That's all I'm going to keep for myself, but everything, all the other responsibilities he handed over to Yosef. And the second question that the Sifsei Chaim asks from here is, Kol Gedula Zu, in source number 4, Kol Gedula Zu, Zacha Yosef, Madua Amnam Anu Roim, She Yosef Pasar Sachalom Be'ofa Nifla. Yes, we see that Yosef, he interpreted Paro's dreams to an amazing genius level. Kol Prate HaPitaron, all of the details of his interpretation is Baru Hativ, or explained so well. Im Chacham Gadol Hayam Muchrach Miyad B'Chalom Shal Para Be'ofen Shemisiashev Ala Lev B'Tzura Nifla. Yes, and he explained it in such an amazing way. Ach ha'im mipnei sheparo nifkash lihichana lefanav v'limsor lo es kol hashilton v'hasmachuyos b'li mitzarim u'v'li gevul. But is that a reason for Paro to now go and give over all of the rulership, right? He's basically handing him the keys to the kingdom. Just because Yosef gave a genius interpretation to his dreams, is that a reason to give him unlimited power, to give him a full degree of being able to do whatever he wants and to make all the policies and that everything should be in his hands. Nasa Talmido, and now Paro is like he's going to be the student of Yosef, and he's going to put himself on there. You make the rules, I'll follow you. It was this chachma in interpreting the dream. Did it bring to that level of greatness? Why was Paro so shocked? And he just gives over Yosef everything from the fact that he interprets his dreams. Why was it so special? The way that Yosef interpreted his dream, and why did Paro entrust Yosef to such a high level based off his interpretation? So I want to now begin to shift already into formulating the answer. In source number 5, we have Shlomo HaMelech in Mishlei. And Mishlei is Proverbs. That's where Shlomo HaMelech describes all the wisdom, but inner wisdom. And he says, Tov erech apayim megibor, somebody who can control his anger, slow down his anger, control, withhold from lashing out at somebody. Is even better than Gibor, than a person who's one of these strong men, right? A strong man in war, or they have these competitions of strong men who can lift cars. Somebody who is slow to anger and who can control their anger is better than a strong man. He displays a greater degree of strength than somebody who can lift physically. Moshel B'rucho milochet ir, and somebody who is a ruler. Moshel B'rucho means a ruler over. Rucho is his inner world. A Moshel B'rucho, somebody who is a ruler over their inner world, is greater than a lochet ir, than somebody who can conquer an entire city. What does that mean? What is this concept of Moshel B'rucho? Says the Gra on Mishlei in the next source, source number 6, Tov erech apayim megibor, ki arotza lihisgaber al chavero, hu tali b'koach, somebody who wants to overcome their friend physically and wants to take him down. So it's talui b'koach. It depends on his strength. V'hainu shehu yachol lahapil v'larogas chavero. He needs to have strategies and techniques, right? Krav Maga, judo, all these different wrestling, all these different techniques to take down his friend. Aval harotza lilchod esa'ir lashir mechayim ki eno chafetz lilchod ir v'sheyu kula mesim kima to'eles yelo be'ir. So what the Gra continues on in saying is that when it comes to a person who needs to completely rid of something, that's much easier than conquering over a city. To conquer a city is much more difficult because you have to keep everybody alive. Think of Israel right now. They're trying to wipe out Hamas, but they have this challenge that they need to keep the hostages alive. They can't kill the hostages, right? So they can't just send cruiser missiles and bomb out all the tunnels and tanks in and blow everything up, because in doing so, they're going to kill their own hostages. What they need to do now is capture, they need to conquer without actually killing anybody in the process, and that is so much more difficult than actually wiping everyone out. And says the Gra that the same thing goes when it comes to midos, that when it comes to a person's inner midos as well, it is so much more difficult to conquer your midos than to wipe them out completely and to withhold completely from using them. And that's why the Gra says that there's 2 levels in the pasuk. You have Tov erech apayim megibor, somebody who can control their anger. That means he's withholding from using his anger at all. He's stopping from using his anger. But then it says that there's another level. Moshel B'rucho milochet ir, that somebody who can be a Moshel B'rucho, he can be a ruler over his inner world. That is like conquering a city. That's even greater than conquering a city. Conquering a city is much more difficult because you have to keep all the constituents alive. You can't kill anybody, right? So it's so much more difficult. You have to exercise a much higher level of control. And therefore, says the Gra, that a Moshel B'rucho is a person who is able to use his midos, his character, and his attitudes in life only to the degree that's necessary at every moment and at every time of the day. Lekach nikra midos, he says this is why midos are called midos. What does midos mean in Hebrew? Midos means measurements. Ki b'chol mida yesh lishtamish ba b'mida hameduyekes. Every single mida that a person has, he has to use it just at the right amount, at the right measurement. He has to dial it in just right. Hu kalochet ir, and it's like conquering a city. She'eno horages anshay. You're not just killing the people who live in the city. Tal mi yimlo chalamesim, because who are you going to reign over? You're going to reign over the dead people. Ela lochet umachniam tacha shiltono. What you're trying to do is conquer them and to bring them under your control. And the same thing goes with midos, says the Gra, that when it comes to midos, the goal here is not to just withhold from using your midos. No, use your inner passion, use your patience, use your feeling of lashing out at somebody else, or a feeling of wanting to get back. Use them in the right amount, to the right degree. Don't wipe them out completely. We need to be able to use our midos, but use them for the right thing. The Gemara even says that a person should use laziness, right? Mishabeach aniyas ha'atzlanim. I praise the lazy people, because when it comes to doing averos, they use their laziness, and they're like, I'm actually too lazy to do that avera. I think I'll chill in bed on the couch instead. So there is a time when you can use laziness. We're supposed to use that to the right degree. We're supposed to use our personalities to the right degree, right? Not the negative elements of our personality, but to dial it in just right, when we should use our humor and when we deem it inappropriate not to use it. Everything in life should be used to the right degree. Now I want to mention the Kuzari in source number 7. Says the Kuzari, Im kain saper li ma'aseh ha'chasid shebachem hayom. Explain to me what a chassid looks like in your eyes. So Amar HaChaver, says the rabbi, ha'chasid who hanizar b'medina, so somebody who's careful with his medina, somebody who's careful over his country that he's ruling over. Mishar umechalek lekol anshe tarfan v'al sipkam, and he gives just the right and splits to every single person the right amount for that person. V'yinek behem betzedek, and he behaves righteously with every single person. Lo yona echad mehem v'lo yitin lo yoser michalka hara. He doesn't give a little bit more. He doesn't bribe anybody more than they should, or slip them under the table more money than they should. V'yimtzayim be'is sarcha aleim shomim lo. And what he finds is that in the times of need, when he treats everybody right to the same degree, and he's fair and equal with everybody, so then they, when it comes time when he needs them, they will listen to him, to the ruler, when it comes his time, when they need, when he needs them. And Amar Kuzari, the Kuzari says, "Ala chassid shalticha lo ala Moshe." No, I asked you about a chassid. Who's a chassid? I want to know who's a righteous person, who's a pious person. I didn't ask you to describe to me what a good leader looks like. Amar HaChaver, says the rabbi, "Chassid hu mi shehu Moshel nishma b'chusha b'chochosav hanafshim v'agufiyim." That a chassid is somebody who is a ruler. They're synonymous. Somebody who's a pious person is somebody who is a ruler. Both a ruler and a pious person is synonymous. Nishma b'chusha b'chochosav hanafshim v'agufiyim. He's able to listen to all the different sensations, all the different kochos that he has in him, all the different powers, his abilities, his internal abilities, all of his physical abilities. He's able to lead them in a hagana. Hagufius, Kemoshe Namar Moshel B'rucho Milochet Ir, just like the pasuk in Mishlei, Shlomo HaMelech, he compares somebody who's a Moshel B'rucho, somebody who rules over his inner world. He compares him to somebody who conquers a city, because the two are synonymous. V'hu muchan lememshala. He is a person who's fit for rulership. Ki'ilu haya Moshel b'medina haya noeg ba b'tzedek, because somebody who has full control over his inner world and uses all of his talents, abilities to the right degree at the right time, and he has full rulership over his own inner world. He's a person who's fit to rule over an external country as well. And he gives exactly what a person needs. He knows how to feed his body to the right degree. He gives it enough food where it feels satiated, but not too much food where now it feels tired and wants to rebel. He gives it just enough mishta, just enough exercise, just enough sleep. A person who's a Moshel B'rucho is a person who knows how to use his body, his talents, and abilities to just the right degree. All of the midos within him, all of his emotions, he knows when to use them and let them out, and when to withhold from them and not allow them. Same with his desires, his taivas that he has in this world. He's not just letting them loose, but he knows how to use his taivas, his desires, in order to motivate him to do the things that he ultimately wants to get to. Using your pleasures can be an extreme motivator, and it gives us so much energy. A person who's a Moshel B'rucho knows how to use just what he needs at the right time, in the right place, to the right degree. And says the Kuzari, I'm going to skip to the end over here, that and actually I'll just, it's a little bit longer than I expected, and I'm running a little low on time. So he says that the same thing goes with a person's machshava, his thoughts, rayonos, ideas, his yetzer, his desires, zikaron, memories. A person has to know when to bring up memories, when not to. A Moshel B'rucho is a person who has absolute control over his body. He knows exactly what to give to what part of his body at what time. Definitely not something easy, but it's a person who has rulership over their body that makes the ultimate ruler in life. Says the Medrash in Yalkut Shimoni, source number 8, Vayasar Paro es tabato me'al yado Yosef, Yosef mashlo nasnu lo, hapeshelo nashak ba'avera al picha yisha kol ami. That when Paro gave the ring over to Yosef, and he gave him full rulership over Mitzrayim, says the Medrash that the mouth that did not kiss Avera, through him everybody will be kissed and blessed. Tzaver shelo diber ba'avera, the neck that was not used for Avera, the spine is what sends the neurons down to all of the different muscle action potentials, and helps put the body into action and contract all your muscles and use your body. That all goes down through the spine. That's why if a person's vertebrae, depending on what number vertebrae you are, but God forbid, if a person gets severed, one of those, so then the whole bottom from that point and down, they'll lose motion in that area, and they won't be able to move it. That's what being paralyzed is. So tzaver shelo diber ba'avera. So Yosef's spine did not do any avera. Vayasam revid hazav al tzavaro. That's why he was zocha. That's why he merited that Paro put the revid hazara, this gold plate, on his neck. Yadayim shelo mishamsho ba'avera. The hands that were not used for avera. Yosef's hands were not used for avera. Vayitin osa al yad Yosef, and Paro put the ring on the hand of Yosef. Guf shelo nidbak ba'avera. The body, his torso, which was not used by Avera, by Yubush also Big Day Shesh, they were also put Big Day Shesh on his body. Raglaim shelo pasu ba Avera, the feet that did not walk to Avera, Yifsu v'yirkuvu al koronav, he's going to use to walk and to ride. On the also b'merchavis HaMishnah, on the chariot of the second in command. Machshava shelo hirher ba'avera. Yosef's, even his thoughts did not think about avera. Tova v'tikra chachma. So everybody's going to call him wise. V'yikru lefan of Avrech. They're going to call him Avrech, which means Av b'chachma v'rach b'shanim, a father in wisdom and young in years. So says the Medrash Yalkut Shimoni that Yosef used every single element of his body. He displayed mastery over every faculty of his body. His eyes, his neck, his body, his torso, his feet, his hands, even his mind, he exercised control over. That is what a Moshel B'rucho is, a person who has absolute control over his body every single element, his thoughts, his body, his motions, everything Yosef had control over. And that's why Yosef merited all the different elements of memshala, of rulership that he merited. But the Sifsei Chaim explains further in source number 9. And he says, Yosef zacha l'shilton gomer b'chol eretz Mitzrayim. Why was Yosef zocha? Why did he merit to the complete rulership over Eretz Mitzrayim? Bibnei shehaya Moshel B'rucho. Because he was a Moshel B'rucho. Because he exercised rulership over his inner world. He was a Moshel B'ruchai. Shehaya sholet u'moshel al atzma. Because he had complete rulership and control over himself. Ilule haya Yosef es hakoach ha'ader shel Moshe B'rucho lo haya moser lo paras amalucha eved ivri. But Paro would have never given over the kingship to an eved ivri. Toavas Mitzrayim, they were the abomination of Mitzrayim. Where even after Yosef becomes the second in command, Paro refused to eat together with them. They put the Ivris, the Jew boys, on a separate table. Ha'im ya'eh lases loas hamalucha kula v'shehu yiyah adon l'Mitzrayim halo bizayinu. It's such an embarrassment to Mitzrayim. Paro ra'a, but Paro saw l'neged einav es Yosef. He saw when Yosef was interpreting the dreams before him, Moshel B'rucho, somebody who had complete mastery over his inner world. Miyad be'amdo lifnei Paro mikashiyatze mibeis ha'asrim liftes halomo. When Yosef came to interpret Paro's dreams, what does he say? He says, Bila die, it's not me. Elokim yana shalom Paro. It's going to be Hashem who's going to answer the dreams of Paro. The Sifsei Chaim explains that Yosef was saying that the interpretation is not coming from me, it's coming from Hashem. And what was he doing, right? This was his one chance. He could have been languishing in prison for the rest of his life with no hope of ever getting out again. If he did not nail this interview with Paro and put his best foot forward, show Paro how much Paro needed him, and that he was the man with the answer to all of his dilemmas in life, so then Paro would never hire him for the job. But Yosef put that all aside. He showed memshala, absolute control. It doesn't matter. I'm going full force. I'm going to give all the credit to Hashem where it's due. Aval gevuras nefesh shekazu lo lihitafes al yidei hamidos afilu l'rega echad zerak mesugol lakach Moshel B'rucho. That a person who can put all of his midos aside, even for a moment, that only can be found by somebody who's Moshel B'rucho. That was Yosef. We find he controlled every element: his mind, his body, all the different parts of his body, his attitudes in life, the giving credit to Hashem, over saving himself from jail. Yosef was a person who showed complete control over his body and his mind and all the elements of his inner world. Paro ra bekach es golda anvanuso shel Yosef. Paro sees the amazing humility of Yosef. Sheino lokech es hachachma la'atzmo. He's not taking wisdom for himself. Haven is Godo Kocho, and he understood the amazing power Hakabar Moshel B'rucho, of somebody who's Moshel B'rucho, somebody who has complete discipline, control over all the different elements of their body and their mind and their emotions. Memela Haven She'im Kain Hu Gam Haroyu Mukhshar Lias Lochad Ir. So Memela, automatically Paro understood that if so, it's this man that I want to be the Loched Ir, to be the ruler over my city. Ki Moshel Elav Yichnu B'nei Amedina, because somebody who's a Moshel over himself, when he's a Moshel over others, he treats them also, everybody, to the right degree, to the right amount of fairness, and ultimately they will subserve themselves to him. And that's actually what we find happening, that at the end of the day, it wasn't that Yosef, we find that all of Mitzrayim, they sold themselves as slaves to Yosef. And it wasn't Yosef who said, you must be slaves to me. They actually came on their own accord and said, we'll sell ourselves as slaves to you. And ultimately, Yosef took a massive tax because of that from everybody, and the land of Mitzrayim became very rich because of it. And they were extremely, extremely successful on a financial level because of Yosef's not just interpretation of dreams, of Paro's dreams, but how he executed on his financial plan. And so that's ultimately why Paro believed in Yosef. He saw that he was a Moshel B'rucho, somebody who's a Moshel, who's a ruler over their inner world. They're the person who's the best for the job to be a Moshel over other people as well, because they know how to treat everything at the right time, the right amount. They know how to balance many different factors together and to give everybody just the right degree that they need. And Sifsei Chaim in the last source number 10, finishes off that Bazeh Navin Gam Es HaBesura Shebisra Es Yaakov Od Yosef Chai V'Chiyu Moshe B'chol Eretz Mitzrayim. This is also how we understand the answer to our second question that we asked, that why would Yaakov be impressed that the brothers tell Yosef, and the brothers tell Yaakov 3 different times that he's a Moshel B'chol Eretz Mitzrayim, that he's a ruler over all of Eretz Mitzrayim? Why would Yaakov be so impressed that Yosef was a ruler over all of Eretz Mitzrayim? Yaakov probably only cared if he was spiritually intact. Why was this the point that's stressed so strongly? Ra'u kulam echu Moshel B'rucho im kein lo na'eh v'yah hashilton ala Mitzrayim lachen kulam nichnu lefanav. Because the reason why everybody was subservient to Yosef was because he showed that he was a Moshel B'rucho. And because he was a Moshel B'rucho, that's how he came to his position of being a Moshel B'chol Eretz Mitzrayim. And that's what would have impressed Yaakov, the fact that Yosef was a Moshel B'rucho, that he had absolute control over his own internal world. And I heard an amazing thing by Rav Isaac Bernstein, alav shalom, and he mentioned once, he said that what this means is that Yosef is a Moshel B'chol Eretz Mitzrayim, is that he ruled over Eretz Mitzrayim. He didn't allow Eretz Mitzrayim to rule over him. All of the negative influences that Egypt had at the time, Yosef ruled over them. He had control over the negative influences that were coming into his life. He didn't allow the negative influences into him and to control him. And that's ultimately Yosef's midah of being a Moshel B'rucho, of giving every part of your body exactly what it needs at the right time, being able to balance your need for sleep, food, social, being able to hang out with friends, having a good time, a little bit of time for relaxation. But if you give that too much time, then you're not going to have any time for learning and davening and the more important things in life and the things that are actually going to bring you toward your higher purpose in life. How do you balance those two? A Moshel B'rucho knows exactly the place and time for each thing. Okay, I'm going to give myself a little bit of time on Sundays to chill out a little bit and hang out. Maybe I can double that up as time spent with the kids so that I can be a good parent too. And ultimately that will get those two out of the way. And then the rest of my time I can spend in deeper learning and deeper dveikus with Hashem. So ultimately a person needs to be a Moshel B'rucho, have complete control. All the different elements that come into your life. And that is what makes a person fit for rulership. That's how Yosef was zocheh to become a ruler over Eretz Mitzrayim. Paro recognized that this person is a Moshel B'rucho. He's got everything. Complete control internally, and he's the person that I want for the job. He's the person who I want as my chief financial executive officer. Wishing everybody an amazing, amazing Parshas, Vayigash, and easy fast. All the best. Good Shabbos.